Om Shatagunam Vidyan Mananad Api Nidhi Jasam Lakshagunam Anantam Nirvikalpakam. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hearing about Brahman, divine reality, is good. Taking teachings on Brahman is better. Meditating directly upon Brahman is better still. And best of all is that meditation in which all doubts about the nature of reality die away forever. Brahman is pure and perfect and one without a second. And the revealed scriptures are the sure and certain proof of this fact. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om Tat Sat. We are just coming off a retreat in Washington State, where some of you here with us at Satsang today gathered, and we studied the fourth section of the Annapurna Upanishad with its profound accent on Jivan Mukta state. You have come here to be a Jivan Mukta, my teacher Swami Sheshanand used to say. Comes here means entered into the body and come to this physical world. Most of the beings of this planet think of the physical world as the only world. But when you enter into spiritual life, you realize that there are many heavens within. Or my Father's house has many mansions, as Jesus put it. And those worlds within are to be remembered with your divine memory. And then you might remember how the soul transitioned from them out here into the body, and how it chose its avenue, its parents, its nation, its work. And hopefully among that array of choices, it will remember also that it had the choice to pursue the goal of human existence, which is Jivan Mukta, or Jivan Mukti, to become a Jivan Mukta. A living liberated soul then has reached the goal of human existence. And that's what I saw in my teacher and my guru when I was with him. And now it falls upon the rest of us to move along that inward trajectory, inward ascension, if you want to put it into those kingdoms of heaven within and beyond them. Or sometimes they say open up chakras. Above the third chakra into the heart chakra would be the main requisite for a Jivan Mukta to come upon a beautiful sound called Om. Sri Ramakrishna says, when a man meditates, all of a sudden he hears this mystic sound. And he says, oh, what is that? What is that? And he gets attracted to it and endeared of it. And it opens up all sorts of new and fresh vibrations, because it is the primal vibration of life. And in possession of that word, moving in and out of finer and finer levels of vibration, he finds mother intelligence, he finds higher wisdom, and finds states of samadhi that the father of yoga has talked about. And even brings consciousness right here into this world of matter. The madness of love, free of all bondage. Matter imbued with the pure spirit. That's the gist of our Vedanta, as Swami Vivekananda has told us. So it is this Vedanta which we're trying to spread. It's this Vedanta which came in 1893 amongst us here in the West. And it was the forerunner of all these other Indian darshanas and paths and ways from other countries that were of Eastern nature, that is coming from Middle East and Far East, particularly the Far East. And so Vedanta has been the underground river flowing all this time, and it will become the future religion of humanity. There's no doubt about that, because of its universal, wide open, all accepting views and perspectives. And we find ourselves in the midst of a lifetime of study of that here in America and in Europe. I see some of our European contingents not with us today, because coming off that retreat and that journey that they all had to make to the Pacific Northwest, then we just arrived back and are settling back into our home life. And it's that home life that we want to imbue with what we learned at the retreats and what we take away from classes and seminars. It's called Holy Company. If you've been without it for very long, then you could probably find a reason for that uneven, imbalanced, dissatisfied feeling that's haunting you. As Swami Vivekananda said, lower knowledge and its aims only satisfy for a little time. It's that higher knowledge, that Dharma, that Atmigyan, which satisfies for all time. So the wise tell us this, and they ask us to sharpen the arrow of our mind and penetrate that mark, the Akshara Brahma, the imperishable Brahman. And they ask us to take the mind as if it were a mirror that's collecting dust and mist and fog and smudges, and wipe it clean every day with thoughts on reality alone in sadhana, in spiritual practice and efforts. And if that's engendered as a habit, then one can wake and go to sleep every day in Brahman and live each day in Brahman, take each breath in Brahman. And the whole matter is simple. Recently, I heard that science is interested in consciousness. They're finally getting around to it. And the expression they're using is the hard problem. They call consciousness a hard problem in science, because it can't be found out. It's hiding. And they've mixed it with nature, of course. And they've put nature first. And as the senses do, seeing everything outside and getting enchanted by what's exterior. It's what Sri Ramakrishna called Maya. The Maya enchants one, brings one outwards, and then the inwards is all forgotten about, so that you eventually end up thinking there's just one world and it's physical and you're a body. So it's a predicament that we fall into that's not to be allowed. It's to be disallowed. So the hard consciousness, it's just a matter of bad titles, I think, as usual. Consciousness would be called the simple solution. In my opinion, matter is the hard problem. Matter has condensed itself out here. Your own thoughts have condensed itself, and that's a problem for most people if they become hypnotized by external things. What's a harder problem than just solidifying things and not knowing how you did it? That is, that the mind's created the worlds, not nature, not God, and so forth. That the mind was the active, mind-ego complex was the active participant in this projection, we call, not a creation, but a projection of the mind. What is a harder problem about that is that when everything does get solidified, that then the mind-ego complex gets attached to it. That is, somehow along the way, it produces the worlds of name and form and time and space with its own thought power. And then when it sees it, it forgets that it created it, and it gets attached to it. And then it begins to suffer at its loss. when it begins to decay or experience death. Last couple of weeks, we've heard of 2 or 3 people fairly close to us who have passed from the body. And some of that was in anguish and a lot of suffering, suffering with the body. So Father of Yoga, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna, what is all this suffering with the body? It's not noble. It's much nobler to take up consciousness as the simple solution and concentrate upon that and forget the body. So Holy Mother said, forgetting your personality, which is this ego, mind, body complex, then remember your true self, the Atman. So these are all simple sayings for this solution. And then the hard problem of matter can be taken up as an add-on, as something that happened as a matter of course. And you can see through to the origin of it rather than holding it as the only reality or getting attached to it and suffering. And then you can transcend it by degrees. And the seers have told us how to do this in the various darshanas of Mother India. All we need to do is follow. It's a fool who hears and has a teacher right there in front of them and then continues to doubt. There's a quality of nature called tamas, right? That's heaviness, weightiness. Then you're the doubting tamas, you see. There's another expression. As you always doubt what's true and what's real and what's beneficial. And humanity is falling back from that. So it's a double entendre on that word tamas. You see, T-A-M-A-S is weightiness and heaviness, but it's also a man named Thomas who cannot believe what his guru tells him, and then move towards this simple solution of cognizing your own consciousness. There's another expression that came up on the retreat called perverted cognition. And there's another expression that they use sometimes in spiritual circles called arrogated thought. See, thought becomes arrogant, and it thinks that its ego is the only goal of life, bringing everything to the small self. So if you look back on your ancestors and your parents and your grandparents here in the West, arrogating thought was their goal. You see, they offered everything to themselves, to their ego, and they didn't know or hear about the great self within. Shravana yapi buhu bir yona labhyaha shrinvato pi bahavo yamna vidyu. Nobody ever came forward to them in their lives. They didn't seek a person like that could tell them that many have heard of the great self, but few have realized it, and some have never heard of it. But it's a wonderful being who hears of it, and more wonderful is the one who speaks of it. And the most blessed one of all is that one who realizes it in this life and becomes a Jivan Mukta. So even with our small numbers here at Satsang today, small dedicated group is often better than 2 million viewers who you never hear of again. So we begin to gather ourselves together to get down to this hard problem of matter and the simple solution of consciousness. Pardon me, scientists and other thinkers, for switching that up on you. Let's look at it in the right way and turn it on to a matter of simple truth. That if you say Tamasi, that thou art, that should be something that's not a matter of doubt, be something that's a matter of right orientation, as Buddha said, and should be acceptance right away. And then you'll make the swift progress. It's sort of like, as you think of some thoughts, some questions here for me, and for all of us to consider, it's sort of like getting stuck on a fence. See, there's another expression they use. Get off the fence. Either person climbs a fence, likes the view, he doesn't want to get off it, so basically He's got two fields, one on either side. And so instead of choosing one and going on exploring and finding what he's looking for, he just sits on the fence. So get off the fence. If you choose the wrong side, then it'll become swiftly apparent to you by your decision. And you can then just jump over to the right side. So a lot of people are on the fence about consciousness and awareness, and they're making the matter worse by entertaining thoughts of unreality alone. See, the chant says, sharpen the arrow of your mind, made sharp by thoughts of reality alone. But they're thinking of thoughts of unreality alone. Maya and nature, and as if nature, is not sentient, so it's not really the devil that's out to get you. It's your own thoughts, your passions, your attachments, your kleshas, your antarayas, these various obstacles, impediments that all the seers have talked about. Those become an add-on to the weights of your life. And it was all unnecessary to begin with. All you need to do is think right and do right. Who said that? I had a T-shirt with that on it. I won it at an event, SRV events. Everyone had this T-shirt. So that T-shirt said, "Be good, do good," or something. See, so that was Swami Vivekananda's simple solution to how you just get on the path and stay on it. And he often said that too. That's the definition of religion. So many people are running after irreligion because they haven't discriminated between what is truly beneficial and what is running people around in circles all the time, chasing their own tails. A lot of expressions are coming to mind today, like a dog chasing its own tail. You see that, and I saw that when I was a youth, and I thought it was funny and laughable, but also very futile. I never catch it. So we must quit spiritually chasing our own tails. We must arrive at a pat decision. It's called dindima, or a conclusion. It's very important to arrive at a conclusion. Then you're not a doubting Thomas anymore. Aloha, namaste to Iceland. We see that you've just joined us. Can you ask us a question from the retreat you were at?
Namaste, Babaji. Namaste, everyone. Well, I don't think I have any questions right now as such. I'm just digesting what we were talking about during the retreat, and it's that there were many things which were said, but all of them very good. So yeah. Do you have any question yourself?
No, and same for me actually. But we will join in with some questions if we find them. So yeah, I guess that's the.
I caught you off guard there. You just barely arrived, but maybe that'll get the creative juices flowing there. You want to get your saham, kaham, aham, all that together. You see, who am I? And then make that conclusion I was just talking about. I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman, and everything in our lives that leads up to that is called inquiry. We want to inquire into the nature of reality and leave off this preoccupation with space, outer space, that is time. Space and time are much subtler than what people are taking them to be. They go to outer space, they forget inner space. They get involved in time and they forget the timeless moment, or how to spend their time wisely, if they put it that way. So it's all a matter of where you put your consciousness, or where you're allowing your consciousness to fall. If you don't control your mind's consciousness, then it'll just go randomly here and there, hither and thither and yon. It's an English expression. I don't want anyone to suffer from their karma and be dragged hither and thither. Swami Vivekananda said, borrowing some of the Old English. Or in the poem he put, this thirst for life, forever quench, it drags from birth to death, death to birth the soul. But they conquer all who conquer self. Know this and never yield. So know this, put all doubt to rest. and reach the goal of human existence. Others there I see were also, there's Jyoti all the way from Colorado who is at the retreat. Did any questions come up that you can express?
Namaste, Babaji. Namaste, everyone. I'm going to stop my video so I don't get choppy on you. But yeah, something struck me from my reading, which is actually just in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita that I'm in. And it has to do kind of with the contrast that I felt from the divine retreat atmosphere coming back into everyday life or a more work-oriented atmosphere. So I might just read a paragraph here from the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. It struck me. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Where should I start here? In the midst of intense activity, he remained supremely serene and unaffected. The great catastrophe, left no more impress in his mind than a reflection does in a mirror. Nothing in the universe could distract him from his wonted pose. For this reason, he is called Achyuta by the sages. The gist of his teaching is, fight the battle of life. Let the virtue in you vanquish the vice. Any useful work that falls to your lot gives you enough of opportunity for self-discipline, emulation, and emancipation. The divinity within is your ever available guide. Attuning yourself to it, do your job as splendidly as you can. Every hero is obliged to wage the Mahabharata war in and through his own life. So it just struck me, and it was kind of refreshing to hear that, you know, whatever our lot is in life or whatever work is in front of us gives us the opportunity for practice and for emulation and for emancipation, as it said. So it's just more of a comment than a question. But if you had anything to share or add, I would love to hear it. Thank you.
Yes, that's very good. And words of wisdom flowing out of that great scripture, whether it's the actual Sanskrit or the commentator expressing what he knows about each sloka. In that case, you're using, sounds like Swami Chidbhavananda's version of the Bhagavad Gita, which is a very good one. And it reminds me that, again, back to the simple solution of consciousness and the hard problem of matter that I'm talking about, that there are a lot of beings who have heard the Advaita and like the teachings very much, and they'll talk about it, but we really need to get down to the work of realizing it. Sometimes they talk about the Advaita as if it's already a fact, which it is, and as if they're already that, which they are, but they're leaving out of the quotient the fact that they have to realize they're that before they can actually be that. That's what's being left out of the quotient. You must realize you're a Brahman before you can know Brahman. So that takes some getting down to the hard work of things, which you're talking about there in terms of the challenges of life and what we have to do every day when we go through the rounds of daily action, day to day, week to week, month to month, accruing some merit and gathering together and building some character. Character is the essence of spiritual life, not blisses or visions or even experiences. So the accent is sometimes put on, you know, the having the experience, which is a good echelon to reach. But beyond that, then will be this beyond direct experience will be this realization of the abiding consciousness in all as you build character. the character will withstand these problems of life that come and go for everyone. I remember somebody telling Sharma Krishna, "Oh, you're perfect, you see, and you're beyond anger and all of these things." And he turned to him and said, "What do you mean? I paid the carriage driver in advance yesterday to come pick me up, and he didn't arrive today." And so that made me mad at him. So basically, it's not like this, you can magic away, as we would like to say, magic everything away, or magic yourself into some sort of Advaitic realization that fees you all of a sudden from the challenges and trials that are going to come your way. So when you started out that reading, it said that that person was poised in an equanimity that was impervious, is a good word, I think, impervious to the onslaught of these many changes of Maya. They've gotten used to the changing tides, like a sailor in a boat is expecting the next winds, the next set of storms, and so forth. They're not just sitting resting on their laurels, but they're actually prepared for everything that's to come. And so that is the practice of Advaita Vedanta. It's called Advaita Vedanta Sadhana. And it needs to be maintained. And even realized souls like Shankara have stated that one must keep the mirror of the mind wiped clean every day. And so that one can be an example to others of how to do that. And also keep one's vision of God pure and perfect as it is. That is as pure and perfect as the antakarana, the mind, ego, thought complex can keep it. So there are minds that are covered with clouds, like a sun covered with clouds. Doesn't make the sun go away, but you want that wind of divine grace to come blowing through every day. And it'll blow the clouds away for you. And then you can have this clear vision of the Atman within and your connection of the Atman to the Paramatman, or the Jiva to Brahman, the Jiva to Shiva. So that's what comes to mind when I hear wonderful advice like that from the commentators. And it's very worthy of doing your manana upon. Maybe if you just arrive at the Vedanta Dinima, all is Brahman and I am that, is that the end of it? Or does that poise you at a certain position to be able to enjoy the bliss that Sri Ramakrishna had all the time and go into samadhi? Can't just make some concluding words about the thing and then sit there. You've got to then emanate out that truth to others, like Krishna does in the Gita on the battlefield. He certainly did not participate in the war and its various concerns, but he was a witness to it all. Yet there he was amidst it all happening. He had legs, he had arms, he had eyes. And so there as a oracle for Brahman to see everything that was going on in the war as a witness. And then if one has that witness consciousness, one's vision becomes deeper, vaster, and broader. And then, as he says, ikramantam vyapi, ikramantam stitam vapi bunjanam, and then goes on to say, those beings who do not see Brahman and everything, they're deluded, but those see who have opened the eye of wisdom, the jnana chakshuhu. So that with that single eye open, then one moves about the world as a witness of all phenomena, which are constantly passing and changing, good, bad, mixed. It's the nature of karma and the world and the unenlightened human mind to be projecting that all the time as a sort of dream life that is going through a series of dreams. But from dreams awake, from bonds be free. Know the truth. Thou art he, thou art she. The man is Shiva and the woman is Shakti. And this is a divine play that's going on if they realize it. And through that, they can become pativrata. They can become spokes connected to the same wheel that's rolling towards the vision of Brahman together. And then they too will become impervious, like the seers, to all changes, knowing them to be mere phenomena and that the soul is changeless and ever free, never bound. Who else has some things to add to our morning session?
Namaste, Babaji.
Namaste.
Thanks. I hope that you won't scold me over this, but I was on the Wednesday class. We read a section from Sri Sharda Vijnana Gita, where she was advising us to pray for nirvasana, desirelessness. And I realized that there were some desires that I didn't sincerely want to get rid of, at least not right now. And I wasn't sure what to do about that. Then I heard a talk by I think it was Swami Sarvapriyananda, who says that, you know, if your emotions are causing you any problem in spiritual life, use bhakti to sublimate them back into spiritual life and get them on your side. So would you agree with that, or do you have more to add to that?
Well, it's no doubt bhakti always sweetens the pot. I mean, the pot is going to be contained, is going to have different contents. I mean, where there's knowledge, there's going to be ignorance, Sri Ramakrishna said. So whether you're trying to overcome ignorance, you're going to have to use knowledge. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, if you have a thorn in your flesh, then you get another thorn and remove it. So the thorn in your flesh is ignorance, and the thorn that you're removing it with is knowledge. But the interesting thing is that both thorns come from the same bush. So the bush is you still have to keep the bush near you. For all problems that come along, you're going to need knowledge to dissolve them. But if bhakti is added into the equation, then the soul all of a sudden feels its connection deeply from the heart, not just worries about its disconnection in the mind. The mind, the pure mind of realized souls is much different than most ordinary minds. And we have to probably realize that their heart is their mind. Their mind is their heart. That's how the best way to put that. The word in Sanskrit is Meta Kendra, where the heart and mind, where the devout heart and the illumined mind come together as one. So it's rather a goal that is there, even contained in a beautiful word like that. So the fusing of the heart and the mind is done even in meditation. So you have a third yoga there that you bring into the equation in the pot, in this mixture of pot. You want to sweeten it with bhakti. You want to have the contents in there being the awareness that ignorance is on the rise, always on the rise, in the unguarded mind. So you always keep knowledge, a sort of knowledge with you to attenuate that, and the karma that comes from it. They call that attenuated karma, mental residue. Samskaras come from that. So with the two wings of the bird, bhakti and jnanam, like that, then you get to this place in meditation where they get their pure minds from. See, and so when they come into the body-mind mechanism, they choose it, and they decide to come in to help us. These jivan muktas, these bodhisattvas, and these avatars, and these avadutas, and various rishis and seers and so forth. They make a conscious choice to come in and take on a body and absorb the karmas of others. And when they do that, they enter in with a mind that's already made pure by thoughts of reality alone, made clear. And when you see them suffering, their suffering is for the sake of others. They're taking a lot of karma on, and then they're working it out, and they're doing that in stride. You know, there's that expression again. He hit the road running. You see, so you come off of some ordeal or some busy period, and you get back to the path of life that took you away from, and you hit the road running. So they do this marvelously like that. They can come and go in and out of situations, what to speak of bodies and worlds, in and out of situations, always in balance in yoga. And that's a wonderful thing to see if you're around an illumined soul long enough, like your guru and so forth, then you can see that being enacted day by day. And they will encounter challenges, they'll gain victory, they will get benefits and boons from the divine, and they'll remain even-minded about it. It's like a big lake that nothing can disturb. And an elephant can walk into it, Sri Ramakrishna said, and it won't cause much activity there. The lake of that pure mind is that vast. So, like rivers entering into oceans, you see. Shandamanam samudri ashtam gachanti namarupat vihaya tata vidvan namarupat vimukti. They have this beautiful chants in the Upanishads which talk about many rivers flowing into the sea and the sea remaining unchanging. So that's the ideal you want to hold. It's a visualization at first, as I was saying, and the wisdom of Advaita underscores it and supports it. But you can't stop there. You can't stop, say, for instance, just like, oh, I'm obsessed with the three states of consciousness. So therefore, I'm just going to talk about that the rest of my life. Wow, there's so much more to Advaita Vedanta and to Dharma than just one subject in it. So you branch out and you take it all in like a sponge. You soak it up, squeeze out what you don't want, then do some more soaking. And that's the surefire way to get rid of ignorance. And if bhakti is there along the way, then you feel good about it. The self-arrogating thought I just mentioned that might come to the mind that has attained a high level of non-duality or is about to, is always attenuated and made safe and non-risky by the heart's love for Brahman. So our teachers, our great gurus, Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, Swami Brahmananda, and the Holy Mother, they're all examples of the perfect mingling of the four yogas, not just one yoga or one aspect of philosophy, but all of them. Sarva Devi Swadarpaya, they're the essence of all gods and goddesses in this age. And so that makes them the perfect ideal to meditate upon, to merge all of these powers that are within reach of the yogi or the yogini and integrate them. Summoned by a Mahacharya. He's the great teacher that integrated all these religions. They're all fine with him. It's not just, oh, Jesus is just all right with me, by me, a song. Oh, Jesus is just all right by me. But so to me is Krishna and Muhammad and Buddha. Those are just all right by me too, if you want to go into it. So there's no narrowness there in them. It's wide open universality. It's Catholic. That was a good name to pick, but it shouldn't have been assigned to a religion that got narrow, if it ever did. It's got to be universal, is the meaning of the word. And it can't be fixed just upon rituals. It's got to go into philosophy and contain that too. So maybe I'm going further in the topic than you wanted to hear, but the bhakti is beautiful to add in there, because it really makes you feel the presence of the Lord and not just know it. So knowing, feeling is not a very good word for us in an emotionally beset world right now, where emotions are a real problem for people. We want ashobha, non-emotionalism, non-reaction. Like, say, should we go to war? I don't think so. I don't want to react to that. That potential there of more wealth, more suffering, more violence, more guns, and so forth. I think we'll just leave that alone and be non-reactive and be ourselves, therefore. So all of this then is to me is the Chaturdasya Yoga. Krishna called it at the end of the Gita. It's been there for a long, long time, the four yogas, but Swami Vivekananda brought it back in this day and age in the late 1800s when he came here and called it the new religion of this age. That's how important it is this wide open acknowledgement of, knowledge of, and practice of the four yogas. Any person who has just one or two yogas, I consider them narrow, Vivekananda said. My vision for a perfect devotee is that they have all four yogas integrated and working together. That's my perfect devotee of the future. And it gives us something to reach for, doesn't it? As you, back to your earlier part of your question, I realize there's some desires that I can't give up yet. Well, that's very honest, for one thing. And it's also very practical. To satisfying desires, satiation never really comes. So fulfilling of desires through the Dharma is where we would go immediately with that. It's more of a tantric approach that, again, if you're an integrator, a synthesizer, you're going to want to see that there are these two great ways in India, two great rivers called Vedanta and Tantra, and that they do, it's not just that can I merge them, it's really a fact that they're always merging and coming apart and merging all the time. It's like bees flying in and out of Mother Kali's black hair. The black bees become one with the black hair. And you'd think they'd be happy there, but they like to separate again from her black hair and be black on their own so that they can come back again and merge with her. It's the beauty of merging all the time and separating, merging and separating. That's called pain and pleasure to an ordinary person. You see, but to the realized soul, to those with the purer minds, this is the play, this is the Leela, this is the sport of life, and they engage in it, and do so blissfully. The highest wisdom and the deepest love, that's Brahma Gyan and Prema Bhakti, are fused together in them in a most wonderful way. So Vedanta and Tantra, you can bring them together when it's necessary and use them in your spiritual life. There's no one's telling you not to. I mean, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, he's talking 60% of the time about Tantra, and maybe 30 or 40% of the time about Vedanta and yoga. And he's also mixing in that bhakti you just mentioned quite a bit in the Gospel, as you noticed. And so back to that way in which you can fulfill your desires. Tantra has some unique ways to deal with that, which Vedanta is just kind of turns up its nose to. It's basically Vedanta is, we're just going to squelch these desires. They're not supposed to be there. Goodbye. Bye, goodbye. Thanks for all the, you know what I mean? So now we're going to take up this way of transmutation, bring everything up and purify it, and along the way the impurities that are there get dissolved. But this has to be a process that you do slowly and with the very honesty that you just said. You can't be hiding your desires and then trying to fulfill them. If you know that you have them there, then you know specifically where you have to work, and then you can work on them in gradual fashion as most people are, if they even know about liberation at all, they're doing it gradually. They're moving gradually towards it. The mind dawns, enlightenment dawns on the mind by stages, said Sri Ramchandra, the great avatar. So we can use these great minds as our exemplars. Oh boy, that would be nice to be able to do that in one jump. But back to the practicalities of things. Let's not jump and fall and hurt ourselves. Let's move up the ladder, one rung at a time. Capture that for ourselves. Hold it. Be sure that we're well situated there, and then move on towards deeper and higher, like swans flying towards higher and higher mountain lakes, Buddha said. But gain the ground and know you've gained it. Back to the earlier subject I was talking about. Doubt gets in. Doubting Thomas gets in and ruins it. So give yourself the credit for coming this far, and don't let the ego take the credit. That's the only thing. Oh, I have attained, then it's all out the door, and you might as well never have attained it in the first place, because if the ego gets a hold of it, then it's a hollow attainment, or it will be. So give it all back to Mother. That's what Sri Ramakrishna did. That's tantric, you see. Give it all back to Mother. We just went past Shodashi Puja, and it fell on the same day as Falaharini Puja. And it was on the second day of our retreat as well that we celebrated these two holy days. So Shodashi Puja to our order, our Ramakrishna order, is that basically he took everything off the altar and put Holy Mother herself there, this young woman who is, the mother of the universe that nobody knew about yet. So he put her there and worshiped her with all the articles you usually worship the images and murtis with, you see. So he worshiped her alone there. And he had set this all up to do this. And then finally at the end, yes, they were in samadhi together. And at the beauty of this worship together, it was totally unique to do this. And they plunged them into a high state. What husband and wife can do that? You see, go meditate together on reality. How many of them are there out there, these householder yogis? So there they were doing that. And then at the end of this, he offered his own mala. And I think probably the last time he ever did a mantra, because we know later that if he tried to do the mala, he recited the mantra to Kali, or thought of Kali. His mind went all to Kali and not to his hand or the practice, and the beads just fell from his hand. So, what good are they at that point? So he offered his mala and all his austerities to her there. Her very being, her body, mind, mechanism, plus her Atman, the soul, plus her divinity was right there in front of her. So that happened on Shodashi Puja, a holy day. It became a very great holy day for our order. So that's how we should think about our wisdom, I'm saying. We should offer it back to her. Then we won't run any risk at the ego getting in and falling into the problem of self-arrogating thought. Got maybe 5 minutes or so possibly left, or maybe more like 8. Enough for another participation from you. What are you thinking? What's niggling at your mind? What's begging to be shared? You're all deers in the headlights, right? Philosophically speaking right now. And that's another expression. Got caught like a deer in the headlights, but I'm only one light, and my light's not that great, you see. I was looking yesterday to see the beings I don't look on the web much, but when I was watching something, there was a sidebar there of all the great beings, you see, great gurus, thousands of followers, millions of people watching and heading on, you see. So a lot of people, a lot of deers caught in those headlights. And But Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda said at one point, what do we need a great guru for? Our guru is enough for us. And so he was talking about, actually he was talking about Sri Ramakrishna at that time, because Sri Ramakrishna wasn't all that great. Maybe we're not recognizing greatness in others yet, because we're not jewelers. We can't assess the value of the diamond yet. Most of humanity is like that. They like to listen to the words of people they think they like, no matter how variant, but they'll never listen to the harsh words of the truth coming from the lips of someone they don't like, even though it rings with knowledge and wisdom. Another paraphrase from Swamiji. So we need to put ourselves in front of that fire. It's not enough just to be baptized with water. You need baptism by fire in Vedanta. So you put yourself right in the very way of that oncoming train, as he called the Guru, and stand there and be willing to receive the impact just to get what it's carrying, what the train is carrying, which is a infinite amount of wisdom teachings. If your teacher has that, then you know you've found the feet of the Lord. The Guru should be the feet of the Lord. So whether the Guru is male or female, whether the Guru is knowledgeable or illiterate, whether the Guru is young or old, I don't have to consider that. If he can give me the essence of the teachings, that's all that's important. Says the Avadhuta Gita, one great scripture. Or maybe that's in the Ashtavakra Samhita, come to think of it. Those two are one in my mind. I can hardly separate them anymore. Those are two great non-dual scriptures to take up, Avadhuta Gita and the Ashtavakra Samhita. The latter there being the one book Sri Ramakrishna liked to keep near him in his later phase of life, which was Bhavamukha, just remaining on the very edge of formlessness, and at the same time be able to look at the worlds of name and form, both at the same time. It was called Bhavamukha. My teacher used to say, the greatest gift Sri Ramakrishna ever gave us was remaining in Bhavamukha. Many great souls have come there and they've just dissolved in front of us. That's like kind of an example of how to do it, you might say. But Sri Ramakrishna remained on the edge of realization, and to bring the wisdom of Mother Kali to us right out of the ancient cremation grounds of Mother India, one song sings, and deliver it to us through a living medium. He didn't pass away and then later you found out about it. He maintained that position for a long time. So we have benefited very much by that. And in that way, then, may peace come unto us all. May higher wisdom dawn upon us all. May all see the face of truth and be fortified by the armor of love. Om peace, peace, peace.